We have one more member. We'll give them a chance before we start, but we'll start in a minute. See, audio is connecting. We're all here. Everybody can hear everybody. I'm not sure, member Petrilli is connected, but maybe just on mute. Okay, very good. Let's call this meeting to order. First order of business is the roll. Management Analyst Brown, would you take the roll, please?
Thank you. Member Carlton?
Present.
Member Chasey?
Present.
Member Green?
Present.
Member Hanson Romero?
Present.
Member Petrilli? I'm just going to mark present.
Yeah,
Member Smullins?
Present.
And then Chair Abbott.
I'm here. Very good. Approval of the minutes. Do we have minutes to approve? Did I not see them in the packet?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I just missed them, but
I move to approve them.
yeah, very good. There's usually not a whole lot in the minutes anyway. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Member Chasey seconds, Member Green motioned, and I think we can take a vote.
Great. Member Carlton?
Approve.
Member Chasey?
Aye.
Member Green?
Aye.
Member Hanson Romero?
Aye.
Member Petrilli? I'll go back to Member Smullins.
Aye.
Member Abbott.
Aye.
That's enough. We'll just go with that.
Yeah. Member Chile abstain or something. Yeah, I'm still getting the hang of the new agenda format, I guess. Yeah. All right. Now it's time for announcements. So this is for any of the committee members or staff who have announcements they would like to share with the committee.
I do have an announcement, but if anyone else wants to go first.
I think you're invited to jump right in.
So this is just an Albany Local Week recap. So Albany celebrated Albany Local Week between September 18 to the 26th. Local businesses and community organizations offered Albany Local Week events and special deals for the community to enjoy. Community members also submitted their best day ever in Albany, which provided a spotlight on our local businesses and attractions. And we want to give a special thanks to the Albany Chamber of Commerce, the Solano Avenue Association, Abrams Claghorn, Albany Sauna, the Dance Floor, Morning Tide, Serrana Community Acupuncture, and the Watershed Project for offering events, pop-ups, discounts, and raffles during Albany Local Week. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I can report from the Chamber of Commerce, we did part of our Local Week item was the Best of Albany Awards presentation. There's a little technical snafu, so it didn't go off quite as well as we would like. However, if you are interested in the 2021 Best of Albany winners, you can go to albanycachamber.com and find a list there. albanycachamber.com. Thanks. Any other announcements before we move on? Yes, Member Hanson and Mayor.
Just want to say that I think, I hope many of you joined us for this sidewalk affair. It went off with great success. We were really happy. And the feedback was really wonderful from a lot of our local businesses. Provided a little bit more of a upbeat atmosphere, not as big as our regular stroll, unfortunately. Hope to bring that back hopefully next year if possible. So just wanted to say thank you for all the support and look forward to more events moving forward.
Just non-member Chasey, Member Hanson, remember, did you want to say anything about Halloween?
Thank you. Well, actually, a couple more things I should say. Sorry, I had a tooth pulled a couple of days ago, so I'm like still in the midst of swollen jaw, swollen all of that. But yes, we have the Halloween on Solano, and also we've launched a program for some lighting to be done on some of the buildings on Solano. So We walked around and put out information about getting some profile lighting for buildings. A lot of the businesses are starting to take advantage of that. And so that will be in the works moving forward throughout the holiday season, as well as some garlands to wrap the poles in order to create some more festive atmosphere along Solano Avenue. So be looking for that in the next coming months.
All right, thank you very much. Member Chasty, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, I saw the something posted by the city regarding the Solano stroll, suggesting that it drew crowds of 100,000. Well, the fact is that we topped out at 300,000 in the mid to late 80s. The avenue was so packed that people actually had trouble walking and negotiating for much of it. And we throttled it back to about 250,000 people and kept it hovering around that 225, 250 for most of the rest of the time. So I don't think that we should undersell the thing that we did for all of those years. At 100,000, that was nothing. We had 100,000 in some of the very earliest days when we brought forward the modern stroll. The old stroll was much smaller, but that's not relevant, really. I mean, the modern stroll, it was the largest street fair of its kind in the state at one point, and that was pretty much put together by the organizations you're looking at here.
All right, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, that's an important point. And I would just mention for those who may not be aware, but the sidewalk affair version of the stroll they had this year was kind of based on or modeled on the old stroll. That was something we could do during the pandemic. It was a much smaller event, but it was very successful. We certainly didn't want 300,000 people on Solano Avenue during the pandemic. That wouldn't be good. All right. Any other announcements before we move on? All right. Oh, did we skip? Oh, we skipped public comment. I'm so sorry. I thought it was after announcements. All right, public comment. So this is a time for people not on the committee to make comments regarding things that are not on the agenda. So we'll invite the public. I see at least one hand is raised.
This is from Alan.
Hearing from Alan from the Solano Association.
Hi there, members of the Economic Development Committee. Thank you for volunteering your time to the group. I am on public record with concerns over parking since 2002. And actually, I need to stop because my complaining has apparently made it only harder in the last 9 years. Anyone who has parking concerns in Albany speaks to deaf ears. Instead of parking being treated like the commodity it is being given away, reassigned, displaced, replaced, repurposed, and it's only going to get harder as we embrace housing with no off-street parking requirements. Before they open, businesses are grilled about where their staff and their customers are going to park. You could say that everything starts off engineered within the parameters of an existing environment. What happens once the parking inventory gets tampered with? When you adjust parking after a business is opened, you're undoing your very own planning process. I know that there's a rumor that parking is not a problem at all and that cannot be true. You cannot negate the original planning process behind it all and not have some sort of effect. I mean, how dead is a commercial district when you can remove 30 parking spaces and have zero effect? That's impossible. Maybe parking isn't so bad now because people have chosen to shop, dine, and use services in other cities where parking is easier. Look, if you ask the businesses, they'll tell you. Most of them are struggling and they need more customers. Most of their customers, they come by car. I think it's about time you put this on the agenda and treat it like the serious matter that it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. Any other comments from the public? Not seeing any. All right. Now, seeing no presentations, we can move on to our agenda items. Let's see. Do we want, so a review of the approved 2021-2023 Economic Development Work Plan. So our goal here is to kind of, now that the work plan has been approved by council, look over the work plan and it's time to get to work. So we're going to review, I think, items item by item, kind of think about priority, kind of think about what we can accomplish, what is in our control to accomplish, because some of these aren't in our control necessarily. And then try to get some people to volunteer and work on these, get started on the process. So with that, maybe Brennan, is it possible for you to put up the work plan on the screen?
Yep.
We didn't coordinate that. I just trusted you would anticipate that need.
Yes. Yes. So does it make sense? Maybe I'll just go through, just list off the items right now, and then we can kind of go back to each one and kind of look at it, or do you want to just start with the first?
No, I
one?
think that's good to run through it one time.
Well,
and then,
so just, yeah, real quick rundown. So
just a moment. While he's doing this, think about what are in our control, what we can accomplish, timelines, and then what you think of priority-wise, because our work is a limited resource. So please go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So under regular reports, designate committee members to conduct research and consult with other cities and organizations about strategies for economic development. Monthly report on findings is presented to the committee by members.
What's left of Albany video service and returning the phone
Sorry
call.
about that. I apologize. Let me just let me do that. Okay. Under regular
I wish I could do that in real life. Okay.
I apologize. I should have done that already. Apologies. Regular reports, periodic reports from commercial real estate broker on economic trends. Under recurring action items, we have facilitate and provide input on potential business uses for vacant properties and new developments, provide input on business retention, recruitment and retention plan with a particular focus on women, BIPOC, and LGBTQA+ owned businesses when it comes to the committee. And just to point out, that was specified by council. So that was a council directive. Number 2, work with the Arts Committee to encourage art in commercial areas. Number 3, look for ways to collaborate with other city community committees and local organizations. Under one-time action items, and it's not so much a one-time action item, but it's once this project is complete, then it can come a few times to EDC until the project is complete. Assist in the design of an economic recovery plan. Number 2 is support businesses by providing best practices for recruiting and hiring. Help increase employment in the city with a job fair and a web portal for businesses to post job ads and receive employee resumes. Number 3, inform marketing and outreach materials, including a marketing brochure, promotional video, social media, and a web portal. Number 4, assist in developing and analyzing results of a survey to evaluate efforts related to business attraction, retention, and permit/customer service issues, and discover new ideas for supporting local business growth. And we've done a portion of that. I mean, we've done that earlier this year, so just want to make that clear. And then for potential future items, some of these were moved to potential future items by council. And so basically what happens is if we complete the things on this work plan of the things I just mentioned, we can propose to council to bring these items back onto our agenda and then work on them. So they're not off our agenda. It's just they want us to prioritize these items that I mentioned first. So the potential future work plan items are review and update the economic development strategic plan. Number 2 is provide input on wayfinding signage to increase visibility of city when presented to committee. Number 3 is in lieu of farmers market, identify options for a successful, regular, unique street event in Albany. Number 4 is research and identify options for a business improvement district plan. Number 5 is research options for a commercial district shuttle in Albany. And then number 6 is work with the Climate Action Committee to develop sustainable guidelines and programs to share with businesses. So I'm going to scroll back up here. We should probably just skip this part, the regular reports. I think that we have that pretty much covered, so we could probably go to...
Not so fast, not so fast.
Okay.
We are
All
looking for volunteers. Part of what we're doing is looking for volunteers. And I know that I signed up to report on, I think, CalEd. And I think member Carlton was going to report on another, but it wasn't really something in her ability. It was needed to be an actual city staff person or something. So that does leave open the option for others to conduct research, consult with other cities on kind of best practices. The idea behind this, if you remember, is that Albany really hasn't had an economic development body per se. And so there's no institutional memories, so it'd be nice to learn how it's done in other cities. So is anybody interested in doing some research on that? I know that committee member Hanson Romero has contact with Hayward. So Jennifer, would you be interested in taking that on?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, actually, because I also work with the city of Berkeley also, so in their economic development department. So, yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Member Chasty?
I have another point to make, so I didn't want to interfere. Let me just wait.
Okay. So here's my question. I see comment from the public. Should we take that? I don't think it's going to be item by item. I think it's going to be for the whole list. So maybe we should first ask for any clarifying questions before we start going down. We've had the staff presentation, and now we'll have clarifying questions. Any questions from the committee about these items, about what we're trying to do here? Member Chasty?
I don't see anything in the list about public safety and about crime prevention. And I think the reason for that is that people feel that we're getting pretty good service and that this is a low crime district, and so we're doing okay. But I sat in on a meeting that I thought was important that the city council had regarding what some people call the defund the police movement, which I think is a terribly unfortunate term, but somehow it's kind of devolved into that. And what I would like us to take up an issue. We do have some occasional crime. There have been armed robberies with guns, on Solano. And so there have been some issues. And we've also gotten a lot of good cooperation from the police department. And what I found missing from some of what was being discussed, and I haven't been involved in all the discussions, so perhaps I missed something important, a meeting where it was already vetted, but I didn't get a sense from the presentation that we have a serious problem with the police not being responsive to the community. And there are communities where this has been the case. That without spending much time on it, there have been times in Albany when our police force managed to do things in a very good way, when other community police forces were doing terrible things. And I point back to the issue of people who are squatting on the bulb and how that whole operation took 2 years and there wasn't one single event where somebody got roughed up, beaten up, someone lost a temper or all that, which is pretty amazing considering that passions were pretty high on all sides of the issue. And I think part of that had to do with what I would call really good community policing and direction from the top to make sure that officers understood that everybody was to be treated with respect and everybody was to be treated without any kind of undue physical contact of any kind whatsoever. So what I would like to say is that the tone that I heard at the city council from some people who thought that massive changes or significant changes had to be made was that the police were wrong and that resources needed to be reallocated elsewhere. I personally am in favor of having allocation of resources away from SWAT team and in favor of psychologists when somebody has called the police with a threat for suicide, or there's a domestic dispute where somebody who can come into this situation and defuse things rather than escalate them. I think the police don't want that job. They'd rather have somebody else helping. And I don't, but what I didn't hear was the case being made that the Albany police have been roughing people up or profiling people. And while there may be some instances of that, and I don't know if those have been documented or not, those should be addressed. And what was missing from the equation was the fact that the Albany Police Department, in so many ways, and I could give you some examples from my experience with them over the decades, have been trying to do a good job. And that was not acknowledged. And why I bring it up in this context is that, to me, the important thing for us to do when we're dealing with police is to start off from the place of we want to include them in the community. We want them to feel welcomed as part of the community, and we want them to act as if they are part of the community. And from there, we can address problems as they arise. And we should acknowledge the good things that they do. And if there's a problem, bring those up and address them. But that positive side was missing from what I saw in the city council. And so I felt bad that the police chief didn't show. And I'm not sure why he didn't show to explain his position, but I think that for us, we should have our own position regarding our interactions with the police, what we need from the police, how to keep our business community and our business strips safe. And so people feel that it's a secure place to come and shop and stay and eat and all of those things. And I'd like that to be part of an agenda item at some point in the near future.
Okay, so I guess if we're going to get a question, it's going to be, why isn't this an item on our, or what do we need to do to add this to our work plan? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I don't know if we want to do that. I mean, I'm happy to defer to the chair to decide how we deal with it, but I do want it as an agenda item where we actually talk about this issue and vet some of the concerns. If there is a problem, and I'm sorry, I've been here a long time, but it's possible I missed it. I mean, I am a white male, so people sometimes feel that we don't see things, but I've been very much involved with the police. When I was the mayor, when I was on the city council, I was involved with a lot of it. I dealt with the police chiefs, multiple police chiefs, some of which I thought were good and some of whom I thought were terrible. But in any event, it's a subject that we as a community, a business community, should talk about.
Okay, so we'll consider this as, I guess, I mean, this isn't, we were not going to talk about it now. It's not something we talk about now, but we could potentially discuss it. And if the committee feels it's appropriate, we could submit a request to council to add this to our work plan, in which case we could then make it an agenda item for actual discussion. All right, thank you. Any other questions on this item before we go to public comment?
Before you go away, I'd like it on the agenda as a item for discussion, regardless of whether the city council wants it to put it on our.
Well, what we can do is add it to the agenda as an item that we request council to allow staff to support. If it's not on the work plan, staff can't provide any sort of support for it. So we would want a report, we would want some information. So to make that a successful agenda item, it should be on the work plan, and that could be our first discussion. And any other questions? Member Smullins, please.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I don't understand. I thought things had to be on the work plan or related to something on the work plan in some way to get it on the agenda. I don't understand that. And I'm just going to say, I'm a white female and I've coached basketball and I know a lot of people and kids and stuff, and people of color, young men of color that I know have been harassed in front of their own houses and in the neighborhood by Albany police. So just because we don't see it and experience it doesn't mean it's not happening, because it's not happening to me, and it's probably not happening to any of us, but it's happening to people that don't look like us. So that's all.
All right, thank you. And did you hear my point about our item for discussion would be an item to ask council to add it to our work plan? That would be the first step. So it's very much in line with what you're saying.
So we
would need to be,
okay, all right.
yeah, we could decide as a committee, this is an agenda item we want to work on, in which case it needs to be added to the work plan. So that would be our first discussion. That's just the way, yeah. So you're right, that technically we're not supposed to work on anything. That's
Okay, thanks.
and I don't want to talk any more about this because it's not on the agenda. It's a very touchy subject in particular. Any other questions before we move along? All right, very good. I see we're opening it for public comment. I see one hand from the public, Mr. Pilch.
Thank you, Chair, for taking my comment. Since the farmers markets came up, I wanted to speak to something related to that, which is the Albany Bowl project. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved the project, and it's going to the council for a final vote because it's a my words are failing me now, but anyway, the procedure is that particular density bonus project, it has to go to the council. One of the things that I spoke up for was reusing the Albany Bowl neon signs in the project. The architect has not agreed to do that yet, but we agreed to have a requirement that they at least salvage the signs, and so that we'll have them for use somewhere. The project architect has also provided all the parking on site. In fact, more parking than required, a lot more for the businesses than was required. And there are discussions about the current street parking around that project on San Pablo and Clay to be preserved, that area to be preserved for a future bikeway. Because in our plans, in our active transportation plans, it calls for a bikeway and pedestrian way to be extended from Brighton through to Adams. There will be a pedestrian way through the project onto Adams, but not a bikeway. So it's anticipated that we'll use the street for that. However, until that time, I was thinking, well, there's a lot of street space and there's a whole street that's a little bit underutilized, Clay, that maybe we could use for some things. So I brought up some suggestions for how we could use that space around the project. And maybe it could be pick up and drop off for DoorDash, pick up and drop off zone in general, maybe a zone for autonomous vehicles, a zone for car share, or maybe a temporary bike could be put into place, or potentially parklets. We could use that place for parklets, especially along Clay, where it's not quite as many cars going by. Or I think Clay might be an excellent street for the farmers market. So something to just a little bug to put in your ear about that. Maybe that could, if we're thinking about retrying a farmers market, that might be a place to try that's not going to affect a lot of people. I know that they, in the previous location, I'd heard that the merchants weren't happy about it. So anyway, and I just have to ask that you watch the mayor's town hall that I did in 2020 for examples of how people are affected by Albany, people of color have been affected by Albany police. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. As far as the item you raised, I get it would technically, I think, fit under a work plan, but I'm not sure where we would provide input on that. But I think that's just information for our use going forward. All right, any other public comment? Not seeing anyone. We can bring it back and continue with our process. I believe that member Hans Romero volunteered to work on item 1. And member Chasty, I don't remember, did you raise your hand on this item or to make the comments you made about policing?
I wanted to talk about the scope of work and having that policing on the agenda.
Okay, you're right, the general comment, so not item 1 here. Very good, very good. All right. I'm still on this subcommittee. Anybody else interested in working on this, kind of learning the best practices, trying to build some institutional memory? No? Okay, very good. Next item, periodic report from commercial real estate broker. That just, it happens. It's going to happen, I believe, in December. We're working on it. And we will have an opportunity to submit questions. So I think that'll probably be announced at the next meeting. But member Hans Romero, yes.
Yeah, can I ask about that? Are we beholden to this particular commercial property broker, or can we get someone who I feel might be a little bit more familiar with our area? I feel like I listened to his presentation before, and nothing against him in particular, but I just don't feel as though he works enough in our area. And I'd like to see somebody a little bit more specialized to our particular area. Is that a possibility? And I'm not sure if I'm asking you this, Todd, or
Well, you're not asking me, you're asking Brennan.
Brennan.
Well, so I mean, for this particular one, he's signed up for December, so that's ideal. But if you, I mean, it doesn't mean that we can't have another presentation from another broker to get another perspective. So if you have a name in mind, I don't think it would hurt to have multiple perspectives in this case.
Is this Tom Southern you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought he was good, but
Yeah, I don't feel like, I don't feel like from the presentation I saw last year, felt like it really spoke to our particular situation and that we're a little bit different. I'd really like to have somebody who's a little bit more intricate with the knowledge of doing business along Solano and San Pablo in this area. So probably a broker who's much more active in this particular area. It's my
And you might, I mean, do you have somebody in mind, or
Well,
I'm not asking you to name them, I'm just saying you could.
Yeah, I can't, I won't name them right now, but
Yeah,
Brendan, I'll
Yeah,
send you.
you just
You do
email
have,
me
you do
and-
have some ideas, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that would be,
Thank
one of the
you.
challenges would be trying to find that person, so that's
Yeah.
good, all right, very good, all right. Very good. Moving on, facilitate and provide input on potential business uses for vacant properties and new developments. I think this is where Mr. Pilch's comment comes in. Provide input on a business recruitment and retention plan with a particular focus on women, BIPOC and LGBTQA owned businesses when it comes to the committee. So let me just ask real quick, Brennan, can you remind us of the status of the business recruitment and retention plan that John Montag was working on? I think you're muted there.
There we go. Okay, sorry, it's too hard to kind of coordinate.
Oh no, I know.
So basically where we're at is we're in the process of implementing this, and we're looking at how we can use ARPA funds to help in this process as well. And so this is something I was going to mention at the end of our meeting as far as future agenda items, but we are also in the process of, well, let me just read off my notes so I have my specific notes, but we'd like to provide a presentation on a platform that would be available to the public through the city and provides information on vacant properties in Albany, as well as consumer and demographic data. And so we just kind of want to present this at an upcoming meeting. We're hoping for November, but it might have to be December. And then we want to kind of have the EDC weigh in on what we're doing now, and then if anything, like receive feedback from you on that.
Okay, so that would be one item under this.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, what other opportunities do you see for this body to kind of flesh this out?
Oh,
to
I see.
Act on this? Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to find things for us to do.
Yes, I mean, the thing.
They're twiddling our thumbs every month.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And what is possible for members and is to try and find businesses that you like, that you think would do well in Albany, that are not necessarily quite in our market area. So something in like Temescal area might be that feels popular and you think that residents would be interested in. That's something that we can do to approach this. I mean, to approach them and see if they would be interested in opening a space in Albany. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out what would be good in Albany and what would fit. And part of that will hinge on like what I mentioned about having a feel for what the commercial vacant properties are. And so having that information would help in this process, as well as having some more data on it.
So what you're saying is that one of the ways, or perhaps the way at this point, since the plan has been, our opportunity providing input is kind of over because the plan is done. But one of the ways that this body could act would be to help identify potential business for recruitment. Okay, but that would, it sounds like that might need to wait until after we have the information that you're talking about in December.
I think
or whenever. or actually that's just when the idea is going to be there. It's not necessarily when it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of pursue this at any point. I mean, if there are specific businesses that you think would do well, I think that it would be beneficial for us to kind of know what those businesses are earlier on, and
Okay, all right.
and kind of look into them more.
Okay, well, is there anybody who's really interested in this particular topic and is willing to jump in right now, or rather than wait? Member Hanson, Mary, you can't volunteer for everything.
I know, but
Anybody wanna-
actually this is something that I just do on a regular basis anyway. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I'd love other people to work on this as well.
Anybody else interested in doing a little research, trying to identify a business that would be a good fit for Albany?
I can help. Hello, this is
Yay!
Okay,
Michael. Yeah.
very good, very good. Nice to hear you.
I
Nice to hear
was hoping you would chime in.
Very good.
Yeah,
very
it
good.
just seems. Do we have a full listing of vacancies and like who the are for those? Is that existing or?
Well,
Yeah.
so what we have at this point is a partial listing. Just kind of, we have a pretty good coverage on Solano Avenue, but not so much on San Pablo. But that is what part of the data we were hoping to get or planning to get. Well, sounds like maybe end of this year, early next year. So that, we have some of that of it. We probably have enough to get started, information to get started, but more will become.
Yeah, and there's probably some low hanging fruit too. Because I
There's
mean,
probably
just if
some
you,
low hanging fruit.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a various.
who the
I'm sorry, go
brokers are. Knowing who the brokers are is critical.
Yeah,
And
yeah, very good. Who to contact? Yes, very good. All right, very good.
So, yeah.
I guess if we want to codify this, we have to vote on it, right?
Well, we've
Maybe at the
discussed this
end?
before. Yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of subcommittees, you don't necessarily have to vote on it. You could just decide on it amongst yourselves. But if you
What-
want it in the minutes, then you'd have to vote on it.
So what if we at the end take a single vote to codify them all, get them
I
in the
think that
minutes?
makes
Will that work?
sense.
All
Yeah.
right, very good. Very good. All right. Okay. Here's an item: work with the Arts Committee to encourage art in commercial areas. I know we're having a report on that after this. So who is working on that now? If somebody can, so Member Green, Member Hanson-Mero. Do you need anybody else at this point, or maybe we should just wait on this one until the next step?
Yeah, so just to let you know, the next item will be to kind of get the feedback from the
Right,
committee to see
right.
what
So,
we want
so we'll say
the
this one is
subcommittee
done
focus
already.
on.
Okay,
Correct.
very good, very good. Thank you. All right. Look for ways to collaborate with other city committees and local organizations. That one is something we can do, we can look for. But that might be something Member Chasey's interested in, because that would probably align with the policing concerns. Other ways people see they'd like to integrate with another committee. Maybe we don't even,
I mean, I would work on that.
Okay,
with Somebody
okay.
else, for sure, yeah.
sure, okay. And I think, the item is actually look for ways. It's, so if we do find a project or something to collaborate, that may need to go back to council for, to make it to work plan anyway, but maybe even to work plan. I don't know, but that's, I think it's open. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea to pursue this. Member Chasey.
Yeah, I'm willing to do some work on that.
Okay,
And
okay,
maybe
very good.
I'd be happy to have a conversation with Amy about more about her experience, and I'd like to see what Nick did when he did that forum. So
Yeah, so it sounded like the mayor's forum in 2020 was what he was.
yeah,
mentioning.
I'll just call up Nick and ask him.
Yeah,
his
very good,
insights.
very good, very good. All right.
Yeah, there
Thank you.
could be ways that we can work with the financial advisory committee, or even find out what they're doing and just kind of put a bug in their ear, or planning and zoning or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. No, thank you. Thank you.
And in
Very
that
good.
process, I'm sorry, in that process, I'm kind of partial to the work of getting some significant artwork into our business community. We've been, I mean, we just haven't done a damn thing. I shouldn't say it that way. People have tried and we've gotten some things done, but you know, if you've ever gone to any other city other than, you know, here, you'll see artwork. If you go to Europe, you trip over it all the time. So, you know, we could do better.
I guess that'll be in the report by Deirdre and Jennifer, but yeah, I mean, I ride my bike all over the city and wander around and it's just mural central, and same thing with Oakland. So yeah, we can do better.
Yeah, and we'll definitely need to have a field trip to Italy to.
Oh, yeah, I support that. I second that. Anybody?
And we'll probably have to have a second one to the Louvre.
Very
And I'll
good. I
cancel
support
it.
all of those. Okay. Can I join the subcommittee? I'd like to join that.
Yeah, I think we're going to need a team
All right.
leader, so,
Yeah, right.
or at least a
All right.
driver.
That's right. Very good. All right, great. Thank you, guys. Now moving on, one-time action items, which is basically, you know, project-based. Assist in the design of economic recovery plan. That's just something that when it comes to us, is that right? We're not driving this.
Yeah, so basically, you know, we had the presentation from John Montag, and he provided you with information on the initial steps that we'd like to take. And as we move forward, we'll present you with information to weigh in on.
So that's going to happen. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all of us are involved in that. Okay. Very good. So the next one was one identified as something we can actually do. This is something that's in our control. We can actually take on. Support business by providing best practices, recruiting and hiring, help increase employment in the city with a job fair and a web portal for businesses to post job ads and receive employee resumes. So this is something that we don't have to rely on any other body to do, except maybe Brennan. But so any comments on this? Any questions about this? Any volunteers for this, Member Chasty?
So a lot of the problem that's been happening is because of the proliferation of algorithms for looking at the increasing multiplier effect of having people submit their resumes electronically. They're both on both sides, it's a problem. And the employers, I was reading a piece on this, and I think it was either the New York Times or the New Yorker, I can't remember. In any event, employers have these filtering devices that would take out people. For example, if you have somebody with a certain amount of experience on a shop floor, and that person is ready to take on a job doing a more generalized managerial position of a plant, the experience on the shop floor might actually work against that person and might have that resume just deleted from the potentials because of past experience. Or there might be something where somebody, like for example, in a position, in a healthcare position, the algorithm might call for, instead of somebody that does keyboarding, which is what a nurse would do with any data from a patient, they might want to have somebody, might speak about something with somebody with more computer experience or more perhaps programming experience, which would be irrelevant to the job and would eliminate most of the people who would be applying. So one of the things I'd like about this local is that we actually could produce an opportunity for people who have real skills and are local and aren't looking for a job in San Francisco, would like to be here, and employers who are local might actually get more benefit out of it. I see this as being quite a positive thing for employment.
Yeah, no, so you're thinking to be local for local. Local
I think it would make it
employees for
yeah.
a local business. No, I like that a lot. Yeah, I like
I
that a
think
lot.
so.
Member Hanson there?
I mean, I would love to see us do just a you know, old style job fair at the community, you know, develop, or not community, what am I trying to say?
Center,
You know,
community center?
yes, thank you. Community center, maybe in the parking lot, have a nice little job fair, maybe, you know, open up inside so people could get some help on some resumes or stuff, maybe have a couple of recruitment people in there. I used to work for Robert Half International, which is one of the, you know, largest, if not the largest staffing agencies out there. But, you know, just to have a job fair and, you know, pick a date, get some posters, find some of our local people who are hiring, and put it together. I mean, I think we could do that.
Yeah, so we have an online component as well as an in-person event component. Yeah,
Yeah, the
okay,
two things together would be really helpful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and it could also, the in-person, if it were, say, in the pumpkin patch or something, you know, for lack of a better word, or something, I mean, something like that brings people to town too. So it would bring some, you know, a little bit of the business and action for other businesses, and it would be an event, and as well as just a job fair. So
Yeah, plus
yeah,
we could
for the event itself.
buy some pumpkins.
There we go. Or they don't do pumpkins anymore, but I think
Yeah.
Christmas trees would be in order. Yeah, the pumpkins sadly weren't viable. All right. Well, I can call for volunteers on this one. Anybody interested in volunteering?
I can help with whatever. So
Yeah,
happy
I
to
think
help.
I can help with this one as well. So sign me up. And Member Carlton. Very good. All right. Thank you.
I'll raise my hand and maybe jump in there. I know that we're on the job fair, but what about best practices, and what about like that sort of that network? How would we be addressing communicating best practices to employers? Because I think that's a missing piece for some employers. I mean, for example, Boss Burgers always has a help wanted sign, so I'm helping him out with best practices for how to manage incoming employees. Employees are now communicating differently. I think that there's a ton of tools out there that we can communicate to employers, and then also like having that database of who's hiring for what. I think that we should, if we're going to do a job fair, that we should tackle that as well, and be sort of tech forward on this one a little bit. But I don't know. That's my.
No, I agree. And I was planning to work on the tech part. And I think for the best practices, maybe we want to ask the Chamber of Commerce to offer a workshop on that.
Yeah.
Rather than the city, that's something that the Chamber could do with the SAA, and we might ask the city to help get the word out, because they have, they have a different list than on the other list, and then that would be something we could offer. So would you be interested in helping with that event and providing your expertise?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And just in participating in, sure, I would volunteer for that. And I think that's a wonderful idea in getting other organizations involved as well, and making it something that is dynamic and I am skeptical about how do we get people from outside of Albany, right? People who aren't walking up and down the street on Solano. Those aren't necessarily the employees that are being employed, within Albany. Right? A lot of people commute to Albany. They're from Richmond. I know that my experience, most of my employees were from Richmond. So I would like to sort of emphasize that as well, about how do we access Richmond and El Cerrito, and also Berkeley, and these other neighboring, and even probably going further out, even to Vacaville, and to these other sort of suburbs of our suburb. So I don't know how we would do that, but I would.
That's tricky. Yeah.
How do you target that, right? Do we have to talk to those? We can't communicate to those cities to say, hey, look, send your people our way when they're struggling to hire as well. So maybe that's through social media. Maybe that's through I don't know. And maybe that's not
connect
impossible
through some schools or something, Michael.
Yeah, I think, yeah. And also, I think we may need to look at this as something that builds, that we do one and then we have to do it again later, but maybe it's annual. I think Member Smullins had your hand up first, and then Member Chasty.
I was just wondering, if it's a chamber event, does that mean that only chamber members are gonna know about it and gonna be invited and get the email, or is it something that everyone with the business license is gonna receive?
That's why I'm asking the city to help promote it.
Yeah,
Yes, because they have that list. Yeah, they have that list. Yeah. Member Chasty?
Yeah, one of my points was covered. Another one, I would second Todd's point that this thing will build, and that solves the problem about how we do the outreach. But I wanted to make a slightly other point. I've been an employer on Solano probably longer than anybody here. And most of the people that stick and stay and work well are very local. A lot of people come and go from distances, but the commute is killer. So unless you're doing remote work, the commute's a factor. And so I would say that the most successful employees that I've had, and I'm talking about hiring lawyers, law clerks, receptionists, and the like, maybe I give it a 5 to 10 mile radius is the most likely. And eventually those that are more than 10 miles away, they find something else.
Well, I think that's a good point. I would suggest that a lot of our businesses don't have regular hours, so the commute may not be as challenging. You know, you drive in at 11 and 11 to 7 or whatever. So
right, if you're in the burglary business, you don't start till 11 p.m.
Well, or bartending, same thing. Very good. All right. So I think I'm sorry, Brandon.
Oh yeah, sorry. I think you're about to say it. Go ahead.
I think that where we are is myself, Member Carlton, and Member Petrilli have signed up for a subcommittee with support from Member Hanson Romero when needed, because she's already got a lot on her plate. Okay,
so
does that sound right? That's too many. That's too many. Just 3. We can only have 3. Okay, very good.
The question
Mom's the word, Jennifer.
Are we doing a subcommittee of this particular group to work with the chamber and the SAA?
So I think the subcommittee. I think what we're doing is we're just asking. This is an idea for the chamber and the SAA. I don't think this body needs to work with the chamber and the SAA unless they want to provide input. But
it makes it easy because you're the chamber and Jennifer's the SAA.
Well, it helps that we have some people. Yeah, I mean that's why those organizations have seats on this body. I'm the chamber representative. Very good. Okay. So there we go. We're moving on then from this item. Okay.
Oh wait,
excellent.
Sorry. Is there a subcommittee established then, or no subcommittee?
Yes, myself, Member Carlton, and Member Petrilli.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And with the idea of, I think we'll meet and figure out a plan of action. Okay. Inform marketing and outreach materials, including a marketing brochure, promotional video, social media, and a web portal. Again, this is something we're not really driving, that things will come to us. Is that right? Or is that something we can help with a little more hands-on? Just knowledge.
We can rethink the process, but for me, I kind of saw it as a perspective of we provide information to you for feedback, and it would kind of operate like that. But unless you have a specific idea that isn't tied to something that we're working on right now that would promote this.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted confirmation. Member Hanson Romero?
And this is something that I think maybe on that earlier subcommittee, where working with other economic development, other cities' economic development departments, and finding out kind of some of their best practices, and maybe we can share that along and evolve this piece of that in doing that subcommittee work.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's a good point. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Assist in developing and analyze results of the survey to evaluate efforts related to business attraction, retention, and permit customer service issues, and discover new ideas for supporting local business growth. On the one hand, we've kind of already done that for this year. On the other hand, there is this kind of open item, discover new ideas for supporting local business growth. It seems like a lot of what we're talking about is along these lines, so maybe we don't need yet another. But that would be something we could work on if somebody wanted to take it on. Otherwise, it's kind of this item just comes to us again in the I guess spring, summer next year.
It can also just be based on if there's specific information that you feel like you need more of from the community to bring that up, and then we can kind of create an agenda item based on that need.
And when the time comes, when we are ready to send out the survey again, it will come here and we'll review it and we will all have our say. So it's not like, we need a special committee for that. All right. Any Member Carlton?
I was just going to say that seems very, very related to item number 1 under the recurring action to facilitate and look at new businesses, because this item is talking about discover new ideas for supporting local business growth. They're just very, very interrelated to me.
Yeah, they all kind of circle the same
Yeah.
core, don't they? Very good. All right, thank you. Any comments on this item? All right. Moving on then. So the next items are potential future work plan items. So the intention is that once we get done with the other items, then we can consider these. I would be willing to argue that a couple of them might be promoted, just because so many of the other items on our list really we're not driving, that we're just waiting for something else to happen or trying to work with somebody else. So if there was something in here that we felt we could get started on earlier rather than later, I would be willing to make that appeal to council to route it to an active item. So let me just run through them and we'll see what we think. Review and update the economic development strategic plan. Now that's something that the member Petrella and I think member Green felt pretty strongly about when you folks looked at this in the spring, I guess. Is that something you really feel strongly you want to push for right now? Or is it something we can hold off probably till next year?
Jennifer, Jen, you want to respond to that?
Actually, no, I don't want to respond.
Yeah. So I think that we did, like, we took notes on it and we almost updated it. Like, like I look back at my notes, like I have feedback on it and I think that it could be updated pretty quickly. Some of the items I think were open-ended and needed more review, but I don't think it needs a lot more attention. I don't think it's also critical that it be updated, but it wouldn't be that hard. So I don't really.
One thing I will mention, just from my perspective, is whether you update it or not, it doesn't impact the work plan items that you have or even the other potential ones. So, you know, it might be best just to focus on these action items that you have, and then later on, as you check some of the things off, we can update that.
Yeah, I would say you know, part of what we needed to do is update it in light of the pandemic and things that we saw, but there are more changes coming down the pike. It might be better to hold off for 6 months or a year anyway, just because who knows what's going to be happening in that time. So that might be kind of my take on it. Or I guess I'm going to say that I'm going to be done. That is my take on it.
Let's still, I agree. Let's push it.
Okay. So we'll just leave it where it is. Provide input on wayfinding signage to increase visibility of city when prison committee. Well, that's just something that's certainly not. We're not driving that at all. That's going to come from. I'm not even sure who, but it's going to come from somewhere. When that happens,
on that
and
one,
when it happens, it will automatically promote. Yes, member Chasty.
yeah, just on that, I do think that we should be able to. And when I say we, I'm not exactly sure the right person to do it. I think it should come from the city council, but we should get the Buchanan Street off-ramp sign changed to, you know, Albany City Center or something like that, so that people know that they've hit Albany. Otherwise, it's just a place that sort of, where's that place? Nobody's exactly sure.
Well, and it's also coming from the other direction too. I mean, when you get off of the freeway at the frontage road, coming from, say, you know, the north and then south, and you get off that freeway, there's just nothing there.
Yeah, the follow-up signage is also important, but I was actually just referencing the northbound nothing that happens on the freeway. Basically, there's a little sign later that says Albany this way, you know. It's sort of
Indeed.
And it's also coming from BART. I mean, if people are coming from BART, the two stations that aren't in Albany, you know, in either direction, we don't even have a nice welcome to Albany sign or anything like that on BART. It's, you know, so, I mean, is that something that we could plan a bug in the transportation commission?
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah. So I know that there is long simmering plan. I mean, years and years and years plan to revamp signage throughout the city and add wayfinding signage and the like. Brennan, do you have any input on that, where that is, if that's happening, or?
I can get back to you. I don't have that information right now, but it might be good to try and find a little bit more information and just see where we're at with that.
Yeah, and part of the reason we would wait is that will involve some aesthetic decisions, we want everything to coordinate. And so there would be a design for a standard Albany signage, and that would be used. Now that's kind of different from the freeway sign, which is going to be the Caltrans signage or whatever. But yeah.
Meanwhile, get out a piece of cardboard and a felt pen and go at it. No.
Go at it.
Look like yet
Oh,
another
are you
homeless
volunteering?
person on the freeway. No, we could, you know,
All
the
we
thing-
need is Buchanan/Albany. That would, at minimum, that would do it.
the thing that would be important about that is it takes a long time for Caltrans to do anything. So to just get on their agenda to talk about this, and when they're going to do it, it's a no cost item to Albany. It's just a question of getting them to do it. And I think if the city were to pressure to get it done, it would happen.
Yeah. Well, and I do know that Caltrans is pretty resistant from hearing from the public, like somebody, if we just wanted to go as individuals and do it, they
we
only
can't.
really only listen to city staff or something like that. So,
Yeah, I've already
Yeah.
looked into it and I've sent
Yeah.
the links for it, and they will not talk to us. They will only talk to the city. The city has to request us. So
Wouldn't it
cannot.
be great to tell people, oh yeah, and just take the exit that's marked Albany. Just take the Albany exit, right? Everybody's conversation would be quicker. Oh yeah, I know that one.
I have a lot of businesses who constantly complain about the fact that they have a real difficult time getting their customers and clients to their business. And it's been forever. Yeah.
You know, maybe what we could do is propose something very specific to council, which is the freeway signage, the Caltrans sign that says Buchanan now, get it as something added, and maybe a little signage down at the off ramp there. Not the whole program, not all this stuff. Just a couple specific things that we know are going to take a long time, and say, look, we need to get this ball rolling. So maybe we can ask staff to put a little time into it. So if that's the case, I think we could go back and say we would like to promote this to a more active item.
Yeah, and
Member Carlson?
I was just going to say, I think that's a great idea, because the Caltrans sign doesn't need to look like all the other signs around Albany. It's going to look like Caltrans. We have no control, but to get that one going, to me, that's the biggest, simple, easy win to do.
Yeah, Member Chasey?
Yeah, and it's a one-off. There's no Society for the Preservation of President Buchanan's name that exists anywhere in the country.
That you know of.
Right. So, I mean, basically you could just say Albany exit, and then, have a little signage when you get Buchanan Street, because nobody's getting off because they're looking for Buchanan Street. It's got to be the shortest sweet street in Albany. In fact,
I think we need somebody with a really big truck to run into that sign, and then we have a better chance. Anybody else? Now, if it happens, I'm going to be liable. Anybody else have a comment on this one?
No, but I think that's a good idea.
Okay. All right. So, Brennan, what would be our step here?
Well, I mean, what we can do potentially is because we can decide to move a future work plan item to send it to council for approval kind of at any point. So maybe it makes sense to kind of agendize that specific thing and then say, here's the information, here's what the city's doing now in regard to that, and then see from there, make that decision to propose something to council.
Yeah, very good. I think that's what we'll do. Member Chasey?
Can we just do that? I mean, we already know does anybody not want this to happen? We should just make the request of the city that this be done. And they're going to have their own input, but just change the name from Buchanan to Albany.
Yeah, I just don't.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brennan.
I just don't have the background information about what's being done right now, and I just want to make sure that you have that information as well in case. I don't know what's happening right now. I would, but I just want to find out.
I mean, frankly, if I go in front of council and say the economic development wants to work on this very specific item and describe it, they might just say, oh, that's a great idea. Staff do this and we're done. I mean, that might be what happens.
Yeah, let's just do it.
That might be what happens. Member Smullins?
Yeah, but I think that if we're going to get that specific and we're only talking about the freeway, I think that, I feel like Albany has a climate action adaptation plan, and that's basically saying freeway is the only way people are coming and the only way that's important. And I think we should do something from both BART or somewhere on Surface Street, somewhere else as well. And I think that's important. You get off at El Rio Plaza BART and have something pointing to Albany, like Solano Avenue or Albany Business District or something like that. A welcome to Albany sign on the greenway. So
I agree, but that is, that's not a Caltrans issue. That's part of the overall signage plan. So I certainly understand that, but I think that for something we can just kind of chip away at right away, that isn't part of a larger plan. This is something that we could propose. Member Hanson Romero?
I was just going to say, this is something actually maybe, Amy, we could talk to BART about and have them put up signage at the same, but this is something that maybe just even we can do and connect with BART. And meanwhile, also do what we had discussed as far as the freeway signage, because that is a whole separate entity, the freeway signage, Caltrans, long process, everything else like that. I think it wouldn't be that difficult to talk to BART and request some signage, and that could be a separate piece as well.
Have you seen like directional signage at BART stations? I'm just trying to think what signage
Yes.
who put up the sign? The really nice signs by the new downtown Berkeley BART. Who put those up? There's arrows to everywhere. It's really great outside the nice new opening.
It's probably the bid. They have a very large
Yeah,
active bid
City,
there.
yeah, so that's,
Yeah.
I mean, because that's
Yeah.
really.
There was a whole development plan around that. So
Right.
that was probably part of the entire reconstruction plan. So.
But that's the city, not BART. I mean, that's really.
Right,
Well,
right.
Yeah.
It was a combined effort with the city and everything, because it was huge project with lots of entities.
Right. But I don't think BART was involved in the.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
part of that.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Berkeley probably has a little more pull with BART than Albany does, since there's no station in Albany. So maybe Berkeley's able to pull for that. I'm not sure we could.
Who
But
are you?
yeah. Okay. So I think that's our decision on that. Brennan, you and I maybe can come up with some language to submit to council on that.
Eventually, yeah. I mean,
Eventually.
is it okay if we can connect, and then
Yeah,
if something
yeah.
can go to council right now, or if we feel like it should come to the EDC to kind of have a formal discussion about it first, and then do that.
Okay.
And again,
yeah, I'm not,
just- I just want to make sure that, I want to have more information for myself first before.
Sure, and I can just say, this is something that's been talked about for, well, I'm going to say decades, and I've heard it out of the mouths of at least 2 current city council members. So it's not something that's out of left field. It's Member Chasty.
I'd like to make a motion that we, as the EDC, request of the city council that it request of Caltrans to change the exit sign from Buchanan to Albany.
Now we have a motion now. Before we take action, this isn't an agenda item. Is this something we can actually take an action?
Yeah,
on?
I know. Well, that's where I'm a little bit.
How's it not an agenda item? It's part of our work plan.
Well, it's
It
put
is.
in the potential future work plan items. So it was basically
So
stated by council to not work on it now, focus on the other things, and it feels like its own agenda item at this point to me.
And also, I thought we were going to lump everything together and then vote on everything else. And now we're sort of in the middle, or are we going to
well,
do
this
that?
would be a separate item. He's kind of
Right, but I
proposing
mean,
a
we
separate,
haven't-
distinct
Yeah,
item.
we're in the middle.
What we're trying to consolidate is the subcommittee assignment, so that we're not having to stop each time and take a vote. But Member Chasey, let me go ahead and make the proposal to council. It wouldn't surprise me if they just say, "Oh, that's a great idea. Let's just get started on it." So we'll
You
see.
don't want a motion, fine. I'll withdraw the motion.
Yeah, I don't think
I
it's
just
appropriate
thought-
for motion at this point.
I just thought a motion would make it more formal, that you have authority from the committee.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. Member Hanson Romero.
I realized, going back to the BART thing, Brennan, I believe somebody on our transportation commission actually works for BART. Maybe that you could make contact with them and see if you could find out a little bit more information about signage for that.
That'll be Sadie Graham.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving to the next item. All right. In lieu of farmers market, identify options for a successful regular unique street event in Albany. Now I can report that council's comment was that the reason this isn't an active item primarily was because it's the middle of a pandemic. Now is not the time to be having public events. Completely aware of that. I'm also aware that it's going to take 6 months to a year to develop something effective anyway. So again, this is one that I would feel comfortable going and asking, can we bump this up a little bit, just to get started on it, not because it's a long process. It's not something you just like the job fair kind of does itself, but this would be a lot of strategic and planning, some research. But what do people think about that?
I agree. I mean, we had good meetings, both private in the subcommittee and here in our committee. And I think it's something that, again, it's not going to be voice activated. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of logistics, a lot of identifying someone who's going to run it. So I think it's a long enough term and outdoor events are happening. So I think we should try to get it to be more on our plate.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Any opposing thoughts on this? Member Hanson-Merrill, you're muted there.
Not opposing, but just saying that, again, yes, events are happening. I think that, also we want to just keep in line with the SAA and the chamber and see maybe how we can make sure that it involves those entities as well, because that's kind of what we do is we put on a lot of events. So maybe this could be an opportunity to work with the city and, connect the events with the city as well. Just a thought.
Okay. Member Chasty? I think you're muted there.
Thank you. Yeah, I second that idea. The fact is that this is the opportunity to use the energy and the efforts of the SAA and the chamber to move forward on that agenda. And the city to start its own thing, I don't think there's just only so much work hours and so many people to kind of come together to do these things. And we run out of steam when we try to spread people too thin. So if we can concentrate on events that we're already sort of working on, or maybe introduce a new one, whatever. But I think it definitely should be coordinated with the chamber and the Solano Avenue Association.
So okay, very good. The question, we could just ask them to go forward. Just say, hey, they're kind of doing this anyway, or trying to. But I like the idea of everybody kind of pulling together on this, because I think it's going to make for a more successful, a little broader reach, and a more successful event. So or series of events. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Member Chasty. Oh wait.
It's that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I think my connection froze for a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The thing is that the Solano Avenue Association, for example, which is the organization that I had been active with and still belong to, does and did a lot of events. And the thing was that it was difficult because the Solano Avenue Association didn't have the resources of the city, but it would put on things that benefited the city. This would be an opportunity for city to bring its resources and its ideas and merge the things together. They'll work so much better. They'll be better resourced. And I think that you still don't want to focus on too many things. You want to be able to focus on a few and do them well. And this would be I think the right way to do it. So yeah, it would be, anyway. Yeah.
So let me ask, if I would give first, I see we have a new member who's joined the meeting, give kind of first option to the folks who are on the farmers market subcommittee. A few folks would like to continue that subcommittee and just kind of continue to work this out a little bit more.
I would.
Okay, Member Smallins, anybody else? I don't remember who was on that subcommittee. Member Carlton, would you like to continue?
Sure, I can continue.
Okay. Anybody else?
Member Petrilli was also on that subcommittee.
Oh, Member Petrilli, okay. Member Petrilli, are you interested in continuing to help develop an alternative event? that brings folks to the Avenue?
I am, but I just realized now after the last couple of months how difficult and costly events are. And I'm not sure if that's in our wheelhouse and whether we should be focusing on that. I mean, who's going to pay for it?
Right. Yeah.
It takes 80 hours to put on a 4-hour event that loses thousands of dollars. So I'm not sure. I'm not really as motivated as it was before. Although I do want to participate in, and I do think that the events that we're doing already are useful. We're also going into the off season, right? It got colder by 10 degrees today, so I don't know if I would like to maybe push this 3-4 months and sort of look to the spring and see what our bandwidth is and what events maybe we could support and help out with and expand upon. The reoccurring weekly one or the monthly one is the one which I think has the most legs. And that one we would have to find an organization to make happen, whether or not some of us are in that organization or we create that organization, but I don't think that's part of our role here. I don't know.
Right. I mean,
No, I
think
agree with
that's-
all that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry,
Member
I mean,
Smallman,
I
sorry.
think that is what we're talking about, Michael, and I think that you're the one that has the most expertise in that area. And to be honest, Linda and I talking about, oh yeah, this would be great, let's put on a show. And we know what we spend a lot of time on Solano. I spend a lot of time in Solano. I interact with a lot of business people.
Yeah.
I know what I feel would succeed as far as knowing business people and neighbors and the public. I've lived here for 30-something years, but you're the one that has more of the event expertise. So,
Yeah.
and we're not talking about just because it's getting cold now. Again, it's not something that's going to happen next month. It's going to take 6 months to even figure out. So
I want to be involved in anything that we do. I'm just a little shell shocked from the last several months. So I'm in, and I'm interested. I think that we continue to do some research and do some, especially on the space and the what and the how and the why, and also still partner with I think all the great events in Albany are always sort of collaborations. I know that the Chamber and the Solano Avenue Association aren't necessarily partners on all of these things, but the more people that we can get together to do it, the more successful. So, I'm in. I always will be, so I don't know.
And I can report just as somebody who participates as a vendor in events. There are events and then there are events. It doesn't have to be an expensive proposition. We've had a booth at basically just a market, and all of our vendors selling things, and it's very inexpensive to operate. In fact, I know that they make money on it. This is what they do. So we don't necessarily have to think about getting expensive vans and paying for food trucks or whatever. There's different options. So I think one of the things would be to work with the city and the organization, come up with a budget, and then figure out what you can do for that. And ideally, they make money. Ideally that at least they support themselves or make a little money to help make kind of so they can grow. But that could be part of the kind of the design. I think Member Chasty or Member Petrilli, did you have something you wanted to say real quick? Okay, no. Member Chasty.
Just on a perspective, when we created the modern stroll, it took us maybe 4 years, and that was with fairly sizable crowds before we could really make money on it. And when I say make money, our goal had always been to promote and increase and improve the quality of the events, and to be able to pay for professional staff. Like, for example, we're able to pay Alan and his predecessor to do it, and able to fund all of the publicity and so on. And it, as Member Petrilli said, it is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of diligence to make it happen and be successful. So it's not something to be undertaken lightly, which is why I would like to see the city and whichever committees work with the resources of both of the Solano Avenue Association and the Chamber to work together, but it takes a while to become profitable.
Okay, thank you. Member Smallman.
Yeah, but one of the things that we stressed in the subcommittee report was that it's not something that, I mean, honestly, we don't want to bring in food trucks. It should be something, the idea is for an event, a First Fridays kind of thing, whatever it is, to, to bring people to our downtown and to help and enhance our existing businesses. I mean, that's sort of the point. So it could be something small, but something attractive that makes people stay and look down the block and say, oh, let's have dinner here, or let's go buy this. So I don't think we want something huge. Something huge is saying it's something that's replacing our existing businesses, and that's not what we want.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of things you might spend money on, and food truck came to mind. I should have said porta potties, because that is what you
Right.
want to spend money
Always
on.
remember
That would have been better. I'm not, and that is not a commentary on food trucks. I want to be very clear about that. But okay, anybody else? Member Brennan? Yeah.
Well, if I could just chime in, I just want to mention, so where it was left off with the subcommittee, and I thought the subcommittee provided a great report on data, and it gave us enough information to decide like maybe a farmer's market isn't the best option based on the research that you provided. And where it was left was like, what's another option that would be viable for Albany? And I do think that that type of research would be good to do sooner rather than later. So that way, when something comes up, we know like, okay, this particular thing is probably going to be the best option in terms of economic stimulus.
Yeah. Okay, great. And let me ask you a question now. This is technically not something we can work on right now. This is something that council has said, you're not supposed to work on this now. Does that mean that we can't form a subcommittee that works on their own time, or does it just mean we can't ask staff to put any time in?
That's a good question. I need to get back to you on that.
Yeah, okay.
Come on, we're still in
Do we
the
need to go ask
landscape
council to add
here.
that to the work plan so you can ask?
I will provide an update with information on that.
Okay.
I'm going to say I would be surprised, but I'm happy to look
Well,
into
I think I could make a pretty compelling argument why this would be a good item to promote. The two we've talked about, why these would be good items that we could jump up and make more active. Because when after the meeting with council and I looked at the work plan again, I said, well, there's nothing here for us to do. I mean, in the work plan proper. So I think we can bump a couple up or make that argument. Just to kind of summarize, it sounds like Member Smallins, Member Carlton, and Member Petrilli are interested in continuing to work on this a little bit. Boy, that's going to be tricky. They're trying to work with the chamber and the SAA because they couldn't work with Jennifer or I, but we can put you in contact with other folks too. That would work.
I
Like Sean, Member Petrilli, you worked with Sean, Charles, so you could certainly interact with Sean or interface with Sean.
basketball Sean and then me and Alan are homies. So I think I could bridge that gap maybe.
There we go. All right, very good. All right, excellent. And I will again, this will be so far there's two items I'm going to approach council and say we'd like to bump these up in an upcoming meeting. But I don't think that means that we can't, as individual members, that you guys couldn't go ahead and meet. I think that's, I'd be more sensitive about asking for staff time, but at this point, I don't think there's, they can't stop it. Member Chasty?
I think we should approach our job as we should figure out what needs to be done, what would be helpful. And the work plan needs to accommodate what we can do, not the other way around.
Yeah.
I think that we have been asked to advise the council on the importance of having economic development in the city so that the city can thrive and that the economics of the city, we can pay for the staff that work for the city. And I don't think we should feel too constrained by anything. If we come up with a good idea, we should move it forward regardless. I just think that's the right way to approach the job.
I agree, but it's just one step to go ask council to do this, because once they say, okay, well, suddenly staff can come in. That's when you can expend city resources. Until they say, okay, the staff can't work on it. So that's why we need to, that's why we need to take that one extra step. But it was just at the last council meeting or whenever that they told us don't work on these now. And I'm saying, let's work on these now. So I'm already doing what you're saying. We're already doing what you're saying. Okay. Any other items on that? Okay. Research and identify options for business improvement district, the bid, business improvement and district plan. I'm not sure that's something we want to undertake right now. Any other comments on it? The comment from council on that was, you know, businesses are really struggling right now. Now is not the time to be talking about an additional charge every year. I am sympathetic to that. No real input on that one. Member Chasey?
If we do go by way of bid, I'd like to know whether the funds are going to be spent on some sort of superstructure to run the bid, or whether we can shop that out to, for example, the Solano Avenue Association and let them run the bid, because I think that would be a better way to do it, or some combination of existing organizations. I, as a property owner and a business owner on Solano, have no interest in starting yet another organization to meet and talk about for ad nauseum how they're going to spend what little money is left over after they pay for their infrastructure, for their committee structure. It just makes no sense.
You raise a good point. All right. I'm thinking we're going to hold off on this one for the time being. Anybody think that it's pressing when you get started on it? And this is also something that the organizations could look into as well. I know that the SAA, as a new board member, has some experience with this, so maybe she could provide some feedback or some guidance. Okay, not seeing any. Research options for commercial district shuttle in Albany. I kind of see that one as tied to the bid, but go ahead, Member Hanson-Romero.
I was going to see that one would be something that could be tied to the Transportation Commission, and see if something could get done through a collaboration of that.
Okay, Member Carlton?
Yeah, I agree. I look at this one and I'm like, does this really fall into economic development? But I think it does, because it's all about bringing people, providing, you know, a non-car option, or people who are getting off BART who can't walk that far, you know, to get into, to provide an option for people to get into the city and actually do things. So I agree with Member Hanson-Romero that I think maybe it could be a collaboration with us and the Transportation Committee, or that probably makes most sense. But I would like to see this one. To me, this one it seems like a very good actionable item that could potentially be of great benefit.
Okay, and it also is something that's likely to take a long time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Any other Member Chasey?
We did this maybe 25 years ago, and we had a shuttle running up and down Solano, and it actually broke even. It wasn't that hard to start. There's some issues that we didn't tackle. For example, we didn't have an ADA accessible vehicle at the time, so that was one issue, but it's not that complicated unless you add a lot of add-ons to it. So it was a very simple proposition, went up and down Solano, so it was easy to deal with. But in any event, I think we'll work with the Transportation Committee.
How did it generate revenue? Was it people paid for the ride? Was that?
Yeah, people paid a small amount of money, like a quarter, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
And it just about broke even.
Okay. Any other?
It was a cable car look-alike type thing. And we also, I think we figured out that we could probably sell advertising on it. And that was another thing that it wasn't long lived. It lasted for maybe a year, a little over a year. But it stopped for reasons that people were busy doing other things, and there was some volunteerism in it, as there always is with the Solano Avenue Association. But anyway, yeah, it's not that hard to do.
And did it just go up and down Solano, or did it go to BART, or
no? Up
do you
and
remember
down
what
Solano. It was very
just up and down Solano? So just helping people get from one end to the other, basically.
Yeah, the idea was that you probably could see it down the avenue and know when it'd be back, and so for people who didn't need to use a vehicle or didn't want to use a vehicle, you could shop on Solano and go up and down, and a combination of walking and so on. And there was a big pitch. I was in favor of this. We could lose a little money and not charge, and it would be even more popular. And I thought the kids would like to be on it. So anyway, that was the idea. It wasn't complicated.
Okay, Member Hanson-Romero?
I think this idea, as far as the shuttle that we're talking about, has more to do with like the Emery go round, where it does connect the BART. It does connect. I'm over here on Pierce Street, and to come up and over the hill, a lot of people in this area and the condos and stuff tend to shop at Ranch 99 rather than transporting themselves up to Solano. So this would basically enable them to reach the businesses on Solano from this side, from the BART stations, both North Berkeley and El Cerrito. So that would be the hopes, and also, be able to access maybe even the library and community center as well. So
my feeling is that at least at the start, this is likely to be an expensive item to get it going. And so I'm not sure this is one that we want to push right now. I think Member Carlton, you were interested in advancing this and trying to work on it right now. Anybody else have strong feelings about this? I really like the angle, Member Carlton, that you brought up about this being an alternative transportation option, that it encourages use of BART, and I could even see it, with the emphasis on less parking at, say, the Albany Bowl property. If something that went by there, it could be useful as well for those folks, and not to mention, the Pierce Street condos, and Target has always wanted a shuttle that goes from Solano to Target and around. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Member Swan?
80,
Yeah.
the 80 bus line is now paused. And so people at Pierce are stranded. I have friends who are parents at Pierce who are old and they can't go anywhere because the 80 is stopped. So obviously it's not, who knows when it's.
I'm not sure we could do anything by the time.
Right. But the point is that
the need is there.
The need is definitely there. And especially if you add more housing and the Cleveland housing and things of that sort. So it's going to serve a lot of purposes. Should this not just go to the Transportation Commission? Does that kind of?
I don't know if this is, does Transportation Commission manage bus lines? It seems like they're more about the infrastructure, right? The hardscape, but I'm not sure. Yeah. I think really it's more a question of where would the money come from? What pot would it come out of? And that I don't know. And that's where I've always kind of seen this as linked to the bid. This is one of the things the bid would help at least get started. Member Hans Romero?
Sorry, this would be something that I would envision that there's probably some grant money out there for transportation, probably some of the restarting business. There might be money in a coffer somewhere there. Perhaps BART and Target might want to be stakeholders and, provide funding for this. So maybe it's a combined effort from a few entities that could get this project up and rolling. So.
Right. And maybe even, Safeway and Sprouts. I'm looking at, big companies and sponsoring, you put your sign on the bus, great, and Safeway's got money and Sprouts has money. And like you said, Target, BART it would help. It would definitely help BART. So I think you look at sponsorship as the way to get this done in addition to your grants, as you point out.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Now, when I hear all that though, what I hear is massive amounts of staff time. And I'm not sure that we're prepared to, I can propose it. I can say this is what we're thinking. But again, I'm thinking, I don't want to, this is up to the committee. It's not up to me. So I don't want to put too strong. So I don't know. Do we want to just have I don't know if we need a vote, but because this is an agenda item, but maybe
we could just do some initial research and, get some information going and propose whatever we come up with.
If some of the members of this committee wanted to do that, I don't see any reason not to. But we can't, anticipate or expect city staff to be involved at this point.
Understood.
Without, a committee could come up with at least the frame of a plan and some suggestions. then go from there. But so are people really interested in working on that right now, or because I would just say I'm pretty sure that if I went to council and made an argument to promote this to an active item, the answer would be no. So I think that maybe if a few people, you know, no more than 3 wanted to work on this, they probably could, but just it's going to be kind of on their own at this point.
I might just do some basic research and I'll email it to Brennan and maybe he can send it out to everybody and see what happens from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean,
get the ball rolling a little bit. Yes.
I think that sounds good. And then in terms of just like finding out information, like you mentioned, Member Hanson Romero, where the money could potentially come from, and then also the return on investment. And that's not necessarily just the return on investment for the transportation itself, but then also what is the return on investment in terms of potential for extra spending in Albany.
Yeah, cool. All right. All right, very good. Thank you. Work with the Climate Action Committee to develop sustainable guidelines and programs to share with businesses. Sounds kind of like a green business program, basically. Any folks feel like this is something urgent that we should promote? Member Petrilli?
I mean, if it's on our to-do later list, then we can do it later, but I'm definitely interested in that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I think it's important. I'm not sure. Member Smolens, are you raising your hand? I can't tell.
Well, I'm asking that, I mean, item 3 was, item 3 of the first section was look for ways to collaborate with other city committees and local organizations. So wouldn't that be?
This is one of them, yeah.
Like, hey, you know, toss it out to them and say, how do we get rid of all the waste in our, you know, in our to-go containers or things of that sort? I mean,
yeah.
So it seems like it's already here if we want it to be.
Yeah, potentially. That's true. That would be a way to go about it. That's a good point. Maybe we should just leave it at that, because I think that's a good point. If who is going to work with other committee? Anyway, you can whoever that was. Yeah, that's right. Remember, Chase, you could you know, talk to the Climate Action Committee, and that could be one of the items, because that would be a great joint project of the 2 committees to develop materials for the businesses and approach the business. Okay, very good. We're at the end of that, so I'm going to ask Brennan if you could just quickly, maybe just the items that we've identified a subcommittee on and who that is, and then we'll kind of make a motion to accept that or codify that and then go forward. Is that all right? I think you're muted again if you're talking.
Darn, sorry. Let me just share my screen really quick and then I can go through it.
Very good, very good.
So number 1 under regular reports, we have Todd and, Chair Abbott and Member Hanson Romero wanting to establish a subcommittee on this. Which is designate committee members to conduct research and consult with other cities and organizations about strategies for economic development. A monthly report on findings is presented to the committee by members. We don't have to be tied to that, but just as you.
And I'm not expecting a monthly report. A periodic report is much more realistic.
I think that makes more sense as needed.
Yeah.
And then so number 2, we doesn't need a subcommittee.
Right.
But Member Hanson Romero will email me. And then for recurring action items, we have facilitate and provide input on potential business uses for vacant properties and new developments, provide input on a business recruitment and retention plan with a particular focus on women, BIPOC, and LGBTQA+ owned businesses when it comes to the committee. So Member Hanson Romero and Member Petrilli were interested in establishing a subcommittee. And I also encourage anyone individually to, if you find something that you think would be beneficial for Albany, email me, let me know, and we can see what we can connect with them. For item number 2 on this, work with Arts Committee to encourage art in commercial areas. That'll be the next agenda item that's been established. That subcommittee has been established. Member Green and Member Hanson Romero are on it. Number 3, look for ways to collaborate with other city committees and local organizations. That will be in a subcommittee with Member Smullins and Member Chasty. And one-time action items. Number 1, assist in the design of an economic recovery plan. This will come to you as we have more information. Number 2, support businesses by providing best practices for recruiting and hiring, help increase employment in the city with a job fair and a web portal for businesses to post job ads and receive employee resumes. This will be a subcommittee of Member Carlton, Chair Abbott, and Member Petrilli. And one specified chamber may offer workshops. And so it could involve the chamber. Number 3 and number 4, this information will either be provided to you as we have information, or if someone wants to propose something, then we can work on it. But no subcommittee has been established. And then, so you have to correct me on this one if I'm wrong, Chair Abbott. So for number 2, you will email me. We'll connect on that, and that's something that potentially be proposed to council in a more specific way. Number 3, in lieu of a farmer's market, identify options for a successful, regular, unique street event in Albany that you would like to propose to council. And where did we land on? I think so. For number 4, we're going to hold off on that. Number 5, research options for a commercial district shuttle in Albany. Member Hanson Romero will do some of her own research and then email me as she finds more data on this. And then number 6, work with Climate Action Committee to develop sustainable guidelines and programs to share with businesses. Are we holding off on that one, or are we?
Interesting question. Member Smullins, did you have an idea?
And are we just wrapping it into 3 basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something we can do? Yeah.
That makes better sense.
I mean, it is one of the items. We found one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Okay. All right. So can I have a motion to kind of approve all of that?
So moved.
Codify it. Just this way, if we vote on it, it gets in the minutes. Otherwise, all we have are action minutes. So if we don't vote on it, then it doesn't get in the minutes. So I think it's nice to have it in the minutes. So we're just going to have a quick vote. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Member Chasey moves. Member Carlton seconds. Let's have a vote, please.
Just let me make that note really quick. I don't want to forget. Okay. Member Carlton?
Aye.
Member Chasty?
Aye.
Member Green?
Aye.
Member Hanson Romero?
Yes.
Member Petrilli?
Aye.
Member Smullins?
Aye.
And Member Abbott?
Aye, for me. Very good. All right. Okay, with the time we have left, sorry, that went a while. So we have item 6.2 from the Subcommittee on Art and Commercial Areas. Do folks have a presentation or?
Well, no, so I just wanted to bring this up because it's basically for the Arts Committee, it's on their agenda to establish their own subcommittee that would work with our subcommittee. And if that's the case, the 2 subcommittees would have a meeting that's open to the public. And I just want to make sure that we get feedback from all members of the EDC before, so that way Member Green and Member Hanson Romero can kind of take that into consideration as they potentially meet with the Arts Committee subcommittee.
Okay, so you're kind of looking for some brainstorming or some ideas on art in the commercial area. Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're looking for? Member Green, Member Hanson Romero, did you want to say anything on this before we jump in?
I wanted to just jump in and ask a question as far as the Arts Committee and the work plan that they've already had. Like there were some things I've heard that there were some items that were already approved and just have not gotten done. So do we have any sort of feedback even before we create this subcommittee and add more to their plate? Is there kind of a report on when some stuff that's already been approved and accepted will actually get implemented?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't have that information, and if you'd like, I can find that information and present it for.
Yeah, because I just don't feel like we should keep adding on to the plate unless we know that something actually is going to physically manifest from that. So
that sounds good.
So just as far as ideas, one of the things that I've taken pictures of when traveling over the years are, utility boxes that have been painted in an interesting way or something. I know that in Salem, Oregon, where they had these beautiful historical, reports of what was there, when, and beautifully done on utility boxes. That doesn't take a lot of input from Public Works, I don't think. I don't think it's likely. That would be more finding the artist or the folks who are going to do that. Remember Chasey?
Yeah, there was a really good one done on Washington and I want to say like around Evelyn a few years back. Somebody did a giraffe on a utility box.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a great idea. But
yeah,
those are,
like talk about low hanging fruit, right? I mean, if you're going to run into it, it's so low.
Absolutely low hanging fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all over downtown Berkeley too. I mean, 100,000% agree with you. They're pretty much ugliest big thing sitting out there, and yeah, we should do it.
Do we need
Other
to have
ideas for the
permission
subcommittee?
from the utility companies to do it, or?
I
Just a
probably, but I think you see it all over the place. I think it's
Yeah, I
probably-
think a lot of them sort of start just like people go paint them.
Organically.
Yeah.
I know we painted graffiti off of them, so.
Yeah. Well, stop.
Depends on the graffiti, I suppose.
Yeah, this was
Tags
not
or-
graffiti
yeah,
you
it was
actually wanted
tags,
to
yeah.
have on them.
True.
Any other ideas?
I think it's a good idea. Jennifer's idea was a good one. Let's see what the status is of the work that, was it Andrea Goldman, I think, was the person who was our liaison with the Arts Committee in the past. Anyway, they did a bunch of meetings and not quite sure what they ended up with. I'd be curious myself.
I think that, yeah, the Arts Committee, some of the members are just kind of frustrated with how long the process takes, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I believe it's on their agenda item to establish a subcommittee member. If they do, then we can kind of move forward with that process. But yeah, certainly I'll make sure to find out more about what is on their agenda and what is feasible.
And I've always had a dream of some sort of tile work at the intersection of San Pablo and Solano to try to kind of bring some focus to that intersection. Just make it a little special. Rather than, currently two vacant businesses, two vacant corners and a sign you can't see. Yeah, no, it's just not very effective. Other ideas? Member Smolin?
The wall on the pedestrian bike bridge over the, on Buchanan. That's this big blank giant white wall that could be, they're tiled, they're painted really attractively, and something.
It's an interesting mural opportunity. Yeah,
with the
we're always looking for
waterfront
mural
theme,
opportunities.
this way, I mean, it's so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll get down there and graffiti it right away.
There we go. But the good type of graffiti, right? Okay.
That might be something for partnering again with some of the other committees. Maybe this would be something that SCJC and Arts Committee could do something in honor of the Albany Indians, and do something meaningful with that down there. So
Yeah, interesting.
Good idea.
Interesting. Yeah. Any other ideas here?
I mean, we want murals on Solano too, but that's
that's all private property, so it's more complicated. Yeah. If you come up with any ideas, I invite you to send them to Brennan and he could share them with the subcommittee. It's better that we don't email directly, so share with Brennan and he can share.
So I spoke to the owner of that wall that's on Santa Fe and Solano, where the I guess
Supercuts used to be, where the tea place.
Supercuts was there, yeah. Now there's right.
Tea.
The woman who owns that is up for having a more mural. She just wants to make sure that it's something that she can feel comfortable with, and she's happy to do it. So, we need to figure out, do we have a list of muralists and some examples of their work? And, I think that once we have that together, and that's why I was wondering if Andrea Goldman and the Arts Committee had figured out something like that. So anyway.
I don't think we
yeah,
know. Yeah, I don't
If-
think we have answered that question.
it's
If you
fine.
provide me with an email or phone number, I could reach out to her and then we can kind of go over options. And then if she wants to do something that's more like she provides the funding that's private, or if she wants to take it to the arts committee for that type of thing, or
So are you
Not sure.
asking for Andrea Goldman's information or the owner of the
for
property?
the owner of the business if she's
Okay,
interested.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can do that. I think that, well, right, we can start the conversation.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Before we close out this items, any other suggestions, any other ideas? Not seeing any hands. All right, very good. So we're now on to item 7, future agenda items. Anything we want to add, anything that's come up we want to discuss? Member Chasty,
Public safety, police.
public safety and police, okay. We could consider, yeah,
Yeah.
Member Hanser Romero?
Oh, the parking.
Parking, okay. Not quite sure. What would the agenda item be? What would you?
I think that we need to kind of assess and take a look at what our current parking situation is, and kind of get more feedback and input from all the businesses. I've been hearing a lot of chatter lately, and I think it's really important that we get a full perspective. So if there's a way that we can request an item be brought to the city staff to maybe again do another assessment of parking. Maybe you have another suggestion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if I could just ask, do you want this to be tied to the potential for the kind of the use of the parking spaces in Albany to be, well, I'll just give you some information on it, and then you can specify. So right now, so in the most recent Transportation Commission meeting, there was data provided to them to decide whether or not a survey should be done to for our businesses and for our members of the public to decide whether the use of the parking spots for dining and things should be long-term or not. They ultimately decided that they would like to collect more information from our business owners and for our community members. And part of that is the parking impact it has on the community. The community development department is going to collect data on this, and it will be presented. As far as I know, things can change, of course. It will be presented to the Transportation Commission. The data will potentially be presented to the EDC, and it will certainly be presented to the City Council. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. I don't know what the timeline is exactly, but it's going to be the next few months. So I just wanted to give you that update. Is that sort of what you're looking for, or do you want it to be specific to?
Twofold kind of thing. I mean, yes, obviously that comes into play with everything as well. But the other thing of it is that, we had a parking issue prior to the pandemic. And we've seen a lot of, stuff reassigned. There's a lot of also, just in the past couple of weeks, we noticed quite a few spaces were like painted green on Solano, and no 20-minute parking zones were there. And then ultimately found out that they weren't supposed to be marked green and ultimately got painted gray. So just kind of, we need to really take a look at the full perspective of parking. And, we get a lot of comments from a lot of businesses, when we're talking about doing outreach to bring other business entities here. 9 times out of 10, those business owners that we've talked to and have said, well, why didn't you decide to come to Solano? And they shake their head at us and they go, there's no parking. And that's really, so if we're going to be wanting to attract new business to the Avenue, we really need to take this into serious consideration.
We're starting to skate pretty close to discussion on an item that is not on the agenda. So I think
I'm just answering.
Clarifying.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I understand. But just clarifying, what an agenda item would be. It would be
like assessment of parking, like a parking
assessment
study,
or kind of, because I mean we are tasked with looking at things from the angle of economic development. And so there are committees that are looking at it from climate action. There are committees that are looking at it from traffic flow. Our task is looking at it from the perspective of economic development. And so that is perspective. That is an important perspective when we're considering this question. So I think that's kind of the angle we need to see it from.
Yes.
So however that would work into agenda item, maybe that's where we're talking. Member Smullins, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I mean, I would know we weren't supposed to discuss, but we're already discussing.
No, we're not discussing.
Well,
we had a discussion. No, I'm sorry, it's not on the agenda. It's not something we can discuss. I had to cut member Hans-Romero off. So if it becomes an agenda item, then there will be the discussion.
Okay.
Right? Do you understand? We can't do anything about it now anyway. I mean,
right. If it's an agenda item, though, all types of parking need to be considered,
of course,
not just motor vehicle parking.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. Okay, any other items, agenda items?
So I mentioned this briefly in different parts of the meeting, but I just want to kind of have this stated in this section. But we'd like to do a presentation on an economic development platform. And so basically would like to provide you with a presentation on a platform that would be available to the public through the city and provide information on vacant properties in Albany, as well as consumer and demographic data. So that will be coming to you in the next, as soon as we can, basically. Okay. And then the December meeting, we'll have Tom Southern will provide a presentation on commercial real estate in the Bay Area. So it's currently scheduled for December 2nd. And if you have any, he last presented to the EDC October 1st, 2020. I encourage you to watch that presentation. And then if you have any questions that you feel like he could answer when updating us, so this will be the more recent information. If you have any questions that you like, feel free to email me and then I can relay to him to see if he can include it in his presentation.
Very good, Member Chasty.
Just a quick, I've been reading about this new trend in, I don't know what to call it. It's like iPurchasing. Basically, it's bulk buying of homes in this area by entities that gather a lot of capital to do it. And it's changing the real estate market. And it may be changing it drastically. Just curious if Southern knows anything about it.
So there's a question. Yeah, there's a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Member Smullins, did I see your hand up or was that?
I was just going to ask if Brennan would be able to send us that YouTube link marked with the time that gentleman's presentation starts. That would help us.
That would help
Absolutely.
a lot. Yeah, that would help a lot. Nice, good idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, Brennan, if you could also send me whatever link I need to see what that form was that Nick Pilch ran.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, if you can look that up, we'd appreciate
I'd like
that.
to see what was said in the open forum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. All right. Other items? Seeing none, I think we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody. See you in November. Man, this year's going fast. All right, take care.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.